Hi, everyone, and welcome to ALBA's first ever online annual celebration. First off, we hope that everyone and their families are safe and healthy. We know that these are very difficult times, and we appreciate you spending this evening with us. We want to extend our condolences to everyone who's lost loved ones in this crisis, and our best wishes to everybody who's sick. These are difficult times, but in difficult times, sometimes it's good to gather and reaffirm the values that we share. And in that context, we're happy to be here and excited about the program that we've planned for you, which will include the award ceremony, in which we'll present the ALBA Puffin Award for Human Rights Activism to No More Deaths, No Más Muertes, the Arizona-based organization that has been fighting to save migrant lives on the US-Mexico border. I'm Sebastian Faber. I'm co-chair of the ALBA Board of Governors, and I'll be co-hosting today's event from Oberlin, Ohio, alongside board member Maria Hernandez Ojeda, who is in Montclair, New Jersey. Hola, Maria, ¿qué tal?
Hola, Sebastian. How are you? Thank you so much. I hope that things in Ohio are well. And also, thank you all for joining us today. It's great to be here with you sharing this moment of solidarity. We want to extend a special welcome to the families of the Lincoln Brigade veterans. También queremos dar la bienvenida a todas y todos los que se conectan desde España y un especial saludo a mis compatriotas canarios. Queremos darles muchísimo ánimo en estos meses tan difíciles.
Why should one care about events that take place half a world away? This is one of the 10 essential questions that drive our work with teachers and students in high schools around the country. Together with the question, when do you stand up for what you believe in? It captures the spirit of internationalist commitment that drove the almost 40,000 volunteers who more than 80 years ago put their lives on the line to help defend the Spanish Republic against fascism.
If the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us anything, it's precisely the relevance of this internationalist spirit. We are all in this together. To be sure, the crisis has thrown our lives into disarray. It has hit Spain and the United States from particular viciousness, but it has also strengthened our conviction that the legacy of the Lincolns is more relevant than ever.
To speak to this relevance, we want to welcome Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha in Flint, Michigan. Dr. Mona is a pediatrician and a professor at Michigan State University College of Human Medicine.
She's also the grandniece of Nuri Rafael Cutani, who fought against fascism in the Spanish Civil War and has proudly continued her family's activist tradition. She has been on the front lines in the fight for clean water and social justice, the need for which the COVID crisis has only made more clear. As she wrote in the New York Times last week, this pandemic makes painfully visible that medicine alone will not save us. Addressing the upstream root causes is the only answer. Dr. Mona?
Hi, my name is Mona Hanna-Attisha. I'm a pediatrician in Flint, Michigan, and author of the book, What the Eyes Don't See. I just want to share with you very briefly why the Abraham Lincoln Brigades means so much to me and my family. So as a child, I would hear stories often from my grandfather and from my mother about my great uncle Nuri. Nuri was a rebel. He was always fighting for one cause or another. He went to MIT in the 1930s, and he got so engaged in the activism that was happening in Cambridge that he lost his government scholarship and was kicked out. But when he came back to Iraq, he formed an organization called the Association Against Imperialism and Fascism. I think I would sign up and join that group right now. And he was always fighting for one cause or another. And then in the 1930s, he found his way from Baghdad to Spain to fight in the Spanish Civil War. And I think because of his time at MIT, he was actually part of the Abraham Lincoln Brigades. We were finally able to get his full documents, and thank you for your help. And so growing up, I always heard about my great uncle Nuri, who had a tattoo, but who who fought for the right thing, no matter how hard, no matter how scary, no matter how it was a risk to his life or to his family. He did what was right. It wasn't about country or race or religion. It was about freedom and justice. So those were the values that were ingrained in me as a child, which have enabled me to grow up committed to some of those same values. So when I found myself in Flint, in the midst of our water crisis, there really was no choice in deciding what to do. Even if it was the hard thing to do, it was the right thing to do. These are the lessons that have been instilled in me, thanks to the courage of my great uncle and to so many folks just like him. And I hope that this really brings home why our work is so important to share these stories for current generations and future generations, so everybody else can continue to lead with courage and conviction to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mona. We're so lucky to have you with us here on our team today, so to speak. And we're very grateful for your ongoing support of the work that we do with ALBA. At this event, as we do every year, we honor the commitment of the almost 3,000 individuals who left from the United States to join the fight against fascism in Spain in the 1930s, at a moment when the United States government, along with most democracies, chose not to intervene and not to defend the Spanish Republic. The volunteers from the United States fought alongside many thousands of others from almost all countries in the world at that time. In many places, groups like ALBA still work actively every day to keep the memory of these volunteers alive. This week, we've received messages of solidarity from the president of the Association of Friends of the International Brigades in Spain, Almudena Gros, from the chair of the International Brigade Memorial Trust in London, Jim Jump, and from the president pro tem of the Friends of the International Brigades in Ireland, Geroid O'Mackle. Like ALBA, these organizations do what they can to pass the legacy of anti-fascism on to younger generations, who are often unfamiliar with this chapter of their national histories. Now, to briefly recall that history, we are going to turn to ALBA board member Tony Geist in Seattle, Washington. Tony.
In July of 1936, a group of right-wing military led an attempted coup against the democratically elected government of Spain. The Spanish people took up arms and beat back the coup in a number of cities, dividing the country and initiating a civil war that would last nearly 3 years and cost almost 1 million lives. The Civil War, however, soon became an international war as Hitler and Mussolini came to the aid of Franco and his troops. The sister democracies, however, the United States, France, the United Kingdom, declared neutrality and signed a non-intervention pact. Outraged, some 40,000 volunteers from over 50 countries came to the aid of the Spanish Republic, forming the international brigades and offering their lives in the defense against fascism. Among them, nearly 3,000 American men and women from all walks of lives, students and journalists, workers and medical personnel, joined the fight against fascism. They became known as the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. The international brigades played a major role in all of the important battles of the Civil War, including the defense of Madrid. The great Spanish poet, Rafael Alberti, recounted early one morning walking down La Castellana, the main north-south artery that runs through Madrid, and passing obviously foreign soldiers, young men, sleeping on the sidewalk. As he walked by, one of them reached out to him and said, "Comrade, excuse me, is Madrid a beautiful city?" And Alberti said, "Yes, I think Madrid is a beautiful city." And the soldier said, "Thank you, I've come to defend it." That was on the morning of November 7th, 1936, the first major battle in the assault on Madrid. The international brigades were shock troops. Given their intense commitment and courage, their losses were extremely heavy throughout the war. Nearly a third of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade volunteers lie buried in the Spanish earth today. In October 1938, the Republic decided to withdraw the international brigades. In a massive parade down the Ramblas in Barcelona, La Pasionaria bid them farewell with the following words: "You are history, you are legend." 5 months later, the Republic fell and Franco declared victory. This was a heavy blow to the Lincoln vets. The left was splintered, yet they continued their commitment to the defense of democracy and the fight against fascism. With Pearl Harbor, all able-bodied Lincoln vets joined the U.S. Armed Forces and continued the fight against fascism, both in the Pacific and in North Africa and Europe. In the 1950s, many of them suffered persecution under McCarthyism, serving jail sentences and even having to go underground. The Abraham Lincoln Brigade veterans have been committed to the most important human rights causes of our time. They fought for desegregation and racial justice in the United States. They participated in all of the major resistance to the Vietnam War in the 60s and early 70s. In the 1980s, they did fundraisers to send ambulances and medical aid and build rural housing in Nicaragua in protest to the U.S. policy in Central America. And in the early 1990s, they demonstrated against the Iraq War. This fall, ALBA received a donation of a number of handwritten and typed letters written by Lincoln vets in 1939. They were answering the question, why did you go to Spain? These letters, this block of letters, was initially auctioned off as a fundraiser to support anti-Nazi fighters who were in exile, as well as to fund the Abraham Lincoln Brigade Rehabilitation Fund. We'll be quoting from them throughout today's event. The vets of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade live on in our hearts, and their legacy lives on in ALBA.
Muchas gracias, Tony. I hope you're keeping safe. Cuídate mucho. Since they returned from Spain, the volunteers have been singing and sharing the songs they learned there. Music was a central part of the fight against fascism. One of the most popular songs among the American volunteers was Jarama Valley, which Woody Guthrie recorded in the 1940s. Today, we're very proud to feature singer-songwriter Sarah Lee Guthrie, Woody's granddaughter, to share this tune with us from Solvang, California.
Hello everybody from the Abraham Lincoln Brigade Archives. This is Sarah Lee Guthrie and I am coming to you from a culvert out here in Solvang, California. I'm really happy you asked me to be a part of your event, and I'm going to sing you a song that was written by my grandfather, or at least a version of it was. Turns out there's several versions of this song, and Woody came along and wrote his own little version of it, and I figured since you asked me to do it, that maybe you'd want to hear that version. So here's my grandfather Woody's Jarama Valley. There's a valley in Spain called Jarama. It's a place that we all know so well. It was there that we fought against the fascists. We saw a peaceful valley turn to hell. From this valley they say we are will never find peace with these fascists. You will never find friends such as we. So remember the valley of Harama and the people that set that valley free. All this world is like this valley called Harama, so green and so bright and so fair. No fascist can dwell in our valley, nor breathe in our new freedom's air. From this valley they say we are going, but don't hasten to bid us adieu. Even though we lost the battle at Harama, we'll set this valley free before we're through. Even though we lost the battle at Harama, we'll set this valley free before we're through. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah Lee. That was so beautiful. Your father, Arlo, has played at our annual events in the past, and it's really great to have you continue that family tradition. So please stay put, Sarah Lee, because we'll be back to you in a little bit. In the meantime, though, let's stay in California and move up a bit north to the city of San Francisco, because there, at the end of Market Street, facing the Ferry Building, you'll find the National Monument to the Lincoln Brigade, which was inaugurated in 2008. In the past couple of years, we've worked very hard to renovate it with the help of the city, of course. And thankfully, that job was finally finished just before the COVID crisis broke out. We want to thank everyone who helped fund the original design and building of the monument and everybody who stepped in to support this renovation project. Thanks to you, we can be sure that this monument will be here for many years to come. And in fact, our friends on the West Coast were planning to have a grand reopening of the monument just when COVID hit. And of course, we'll be rescheduling those events, so please stay tuned, check our website, and look in our magazine, The Volunteer, for updates.
Yes, Sebastian, and hopefully it will be soon. Our most loyal supporters continue to be the family members of the Lincoln Brigade. At this point in our program, we normally ask all of them to rise so that we can honor them. Instead, today, we'll ask you to let us know that you are watching us on Facebook. So please write the name of your family member on the comment section, and you can do this now or throughout the entire event. Also, if you have a picture, please feel free to post it at any time.
We'll be excited to see the names and maybe your photos appear as we continue the program, or after it's over. You can also always continue to post things after the end of the live event on our Facebook page. That would be great, terrific. Would be really terrific too. We are really so honored, family members, that you've joined us today, and we hope that you are all well. In the meantime, let's go over to Manhattan, New York, to Mark Wallen, ALBA's Executive Director. Mark, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Wallen. It's been just over a year now since I've had the pleasure of serving as ALBA's Executive Director, and it's been just great getting to know this organization, its leadership, the dedicated and talented Board of Governors, and all of you who make ALBA all that it is today. We've worked this past year to ensure that ALBA remains a dynamic organization, honoring the legacy of the Lincoln Brigade while also remaining relevant in today's troubling political and social climate. Please visit our newly renovated website. You'll find a wealth of information there, as well as our ever-popular volunteer bio database and other resources as well. Be sure to check out our online bookstore. There are some great books there on the history of the Spanish Civil War, as well as CDs with the music of that era, and also other merchandise. Be sure to like us and follow us on Facebook and also on Twitter. We have a new YouTube channel, so be sure that you subscribe to us there as well. We have an opportunity this year to make a difference both locally and nationally Please be sure that you're registered to vote. If you've moved since the last time you voted, be sure to change your registration. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the ALBA staff who work with me. Dennis Meany is our executive assistant and plays a critical role in all that we do. Marina Mihashilova is our bookkeeper, and Michelle St. Martin works with us on social media. Thanks to all of them. We're currently working from our respective homes, but rest assured that ALBA is fully operational. Do not hesitate to contact us at any time. Thanks again for joining our online gala. Enjoy.
Thank you, Mark. I hope that you're doing well in Manhattan. ALBA's connection to Spain continues to be strong, and our hearts go out to those of you who are living through this crisis. 4 years ago, when the ALBA Puffin Award went to the Association for the Recovery of Historical Memory, the young singer-songwriter Pedro Pastor performed at the ceremony. We are happy to have Pedro back with us, along with his father, Luis Pastor, who is one of Spain's best-known political singer-songwriters alive. Pedro and Luis are connecting with us from their home in Madrid with a tune that Luis first released 18 years ago, but that's sadly more relevant today than ever. It's called On the Borders of the World, En las Fronteras del Mundo. Please welcome Pedro and Luis Pastor.
Soy tú, soy él, y muchos que no conozco, en las fronteras del mundo, en el miedo de tus ojos abandonados, tu suerte y la ambición de unos pocos. Soy tú, soy él, y muchos que aquí no llegan, desperdigados del hambre, despojados de la tierra, olvidados del destino, heridos de tantas guerras. Soy tú, soy él, nosotros y todos ellos, esclavos del nuevo siglo, obligados al destierro, desterrados de la vida, condenados al infierno. Oy, 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 soy tú, soy él, mano de obra barata, sin contratos, sin papeles, sin trabajo y sin casa, ilegales, sin derechos o legales, sin palabras. Soy tú, soy él, y una foto en la cartera, donde te miran los ojos de 3 hijos de una abuela, que esperan poder salvarse con el dinero que no llega. Soy tú, soy él, en el nuevo paraíso, horizonte de grandeza de los que serán más ricos, construyendo su fortuna con la sangre de tus hijos. Oy, 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 acuarela de colores, humano de muchas razas, olor de muchos sabores, a las puertas del futuro que te niega sus favores. Humano de muchas razas, olor de muchos sabores, a las puertas del futuro que te niega sus favores. Soy tú, soy tú, soy él, soy él, soy tú, soy tú, soy él, soy él, soy tú, soy tú, soy él, y muchos que ni conozco, y muchos que aquí no llegan, nosotros y todos ellos, de mano de obra barata, y una foto en la cartera, en el nuevo paraíso, acuarela de colores. Soy tú, soy tú, soy él, soy tú, soy tú, soy él, soy tú, soy tú, soy él, soy tú, soy tú, soy él. Oy, 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 oy,
Muchísimas gracias, Luis y Pedro. Who knew you could generate that kind of musical energy in a kitchen? But maybe it helps to have been locked down for weeks so you can kind of get all that energy out. This has sounded really great. We've all been following the news in Spain closely, of course, and we hope that you and your loved ones are all well and continue to be safe. I'm going to go ahead and change the pace a little bit because, as you know, as we do every year, at this point in the program, we'd like to take a moment to mourn members of the ALBA family that we lost since the last time that we saw each other. Among them this year was Gabriel Jackson, who served for many years on the ALBA board and honorary board. Gabe passed away this November 3rd at the age of 98. In addition to being a loyal friend and supporter of VALB and ALBA, he was also one of the most accomplished historians in the world on the topic of the Spanish Civil War. Also, a little over a month ago, the COVID virus took Perry Rosenstein. Perry, who was 94, was the president of the Puffin Foundation. Really, without his vision and without his support, ALBA and the ALBA Puffin Award for Human Rights Activism would not exist today. For a tribute to Perry, we now turn to Peter Carroll, ALBA's chair emeritus, who is connecting with us from Belmont, California. Take it away, Peter.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, we are still mourning our friend Perry Rosenstein, who passed away on April 3rd in Teaneck, New Jersey, the headquarters of the Puffin Foundation. Perry, as you probably would guess, was a very successful businessman, but he was born in poverty to a poor immigrant family from Poland who lived in the coops in the Bronx. And as one of his neighbors told me at one point, they were the poorest of the poor. Someone asked me last week how Perry was connected to the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. And there's an interesting story behind that as well. When the Spanish Civil War broke out in 1937, lots of people expressed sympathy for the Spanish Republic in the United States and formed groups like the Friends of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. Perry and his friends decided to organize young defenders of Spanish democracy in the coops. He was a ringleader even then, and he was 11 years old. He knew the Lincoln Brigade all his life. And despite his success in business, he kept his eye on his own past and the kind of issues that the poorer people, have-nots had, especially artists and art organizations. He was passionate about assisting those kinds of groups. And that's how ALBA first made contact with Perry Rosenstein. In 1994, we were planning to do an exhibition of Spanish Civil War posters, and we went to Perry and asked if he could fund it for us. And his answer was instantly yes. That exhibition went to 24 different venues over 6 years. It was seen by hundreds of thousands of people. And it was followed by other exhibitions that Perry supported, a photography exhibition of Spanish Civil War photos, the children's art in wartime exhibition, Facing Fascism, at the Museum of the City of New York. Indeed, Perry eventually funded the entire activist gallery at that museum of the City of New York, and he made sure in perpetuity that there would be a plaque on the wall honoring the volunteers of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. For ALBA, he supported our teaching institutes, the Sussman Lecture that Dr. Mona gave recently at Wayne State. He supported groups like Human Rights Educators, and most recently supported the Human Rights Activist Award that we are honoring today, No More Death. He also supported progressive magazines. He supported environmental institutions. We talk about his philanthropy in a very serious way, a very meaningful way for all of us. But Perry also had a soft side too. He played the violin, and he loved playing the violin. And he loved tap dancing. He was the only man in the group that learned to tap dance for a couple of years. And of course, he enjoyed travel and he enjoyed his private life so much as well. What made him exceptional and unique was the range of his vision, I think. He was welcome to new ideas and new organizations. He had a broad outlook of the future, the need for everything to improve society and make it easier for people to live. And he had a strategy to accomplish it through his kind gifts, his generosity, his meaningful support of ALBA and other groups like us. We're going to miss Perry Rosenstein, and I hope he rests in peace forever, and his foundation continues to support the kind of ideas and organizations that were so close to his heart.
Thank you, Peter, for your beautiful tribute to Perry. Everyone at ALBA mourns his loss. So now we're getting close to the central part of this event, the award ceremony. We're happy that this year's ALBA Puffin Award for Human Rights Activism is going to No More Deaths, No Más Muertes, whose brave volunteers have worked for the past 16 years to save the lives of migrants crossing the desert and to achieve immigrant reform. Like the volunteers of the Lincoln Brigade, their principal activism has put them at odds with the legal system at the border, which deem living water and food for migrants a crime. In a little bit, we'll be turning to ALBA's Kate Doyle to present the award, after which we'll hear from two No More Deaths volunteers, Madeline Hughes, who was among those who faced trial last year, and Gina Jackson, who has been working with the organization since 2012. But first, we're going to New Jersey to connect with Neil Rosenstein of the Puffin Foundation. Welcome, Neil.
Good evening, friends. I'd like to share a few brief words from Gladys and myself about the ALBA Puffin Award for Human Rights Activism and this year's honorees, No More Deaths. I'd like to start, however, with an offering of gratitude from Gladys, myself, and our families for ALBA's wonderful tribute to Perry. And we want to offer our own condolences to everyone facing the ravages of the COVID pandemic and facing sad times of their own. You know, the genesis of the ALBA Puffin Award for Human Rights Activism originated with my father. He believed that the history, lessons, and ideals of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade were too important to be forgotten, and that the prize could help ALBA thrive and create new partnerships with contemporary champions of those who shared similar values. ALBA, and all of you joining us today, should be proud of the awardees chosen in past years, from Spanish Judge Baltasar Garzon, whose many crusades included working to uncover the crimes and murders of the Franco regime, to civil rights activist Brian Stevenson, to the many activists fighting for refugees and human rights across the globe and right here at home. This $100,000 award recognizes and encourages individuals or groups whose efforts have a positive impact on the advancement and/or defense of human rights. And tonight, we celebrate the 10th year of the ALBA Puffin Prize. We're so pleased this year's choice is No More Deaths. Against the power of the U.S. government, volunteers of No More Deaths have been arrested, risked imprisonment, and have displayed an international solidarity that makes them ideally suited for this award. Their choice says we cannot and will not ignore our country's own crimes and misdeeds. I think my father said it best with these words in January. No More Deaths is comprised of individuals from all walks of life who are standing up in defense of human rights against the ill-formed and odious actions of their own government. Their work speaks louder than words, saving lives that have been devalued by heartless U.S. policies. And I'd like to now end by sharing some words from Puffin's executive director, Gladys Rosenstein. She writes, "Thank you for your invitation to speak at this wonderful gala today. And also a very special thank you for the poignant words spoken about Perry that so beautifully caught the essence of who he was and what he believed in. ALBA was a most important organization in Perry's life, The humanitarian groups and causes highlighted every year when choosing the Puffin ALBA Awards were of great pride to him. No More Deaths is a perfect example of a group Perry enthusiastically approved of and endorsed. Their dedication to working to stop the deaths of migrants in the desert and enacting immigration reform. Their mission to end death and suffering in the Mexico-U.S. borderlands. Their dedication to the right to provide humanitarian sustenance among their other outstanding voluntary work speak to all of Perry's values. And I thank you for all your work in keeping the mission of ALBA alive and supporting humanistic goals. Stay well, and hopefully we can all meet together in better times next year. So now, I'd like to digitally hand things over to a former prize recipient and ALBA co-chair, Kate Doyle, to present this year's ALBA Puffin Prize for Human Rights Activism to No More Deaths, and to hear from Gina Jackson of No More Deaths about how their efforts distinguish them as true champions of civil and human rights. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kate Doyle, and I'm a member of ALBA's Board of Governors. Every year, when the Abraham Lincoln Brigade Archives and the Puffin Foundation get together to consider our Human Rights Activism Award, we think long and hard about how the work of organizations not only contributes to the strengthening of human rights today, but also how it connects to the legacy of the men and women who joined the Lincoln Brigade to fight fascism in Spain more than 80 years ago. This year, we wanted the prize to shine a light on the disaster unfolding everywhere as countries turn their backs on people fleeing unendurable violence and corruption. No More Deaths does all of that and more. Since 2004, No More Deaths has recognized the urgent need to protect the lives of immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. The group's volunteers have acted with profound bravery, embracing the civil disobedience sometimes necessary to accomplish their mission. They have sought to alleviate the suffering of men, women, and children crossing the southern border of the United States in search of life. No More Deaths embodies the same spirit of volunteerism, humanity, and courage that animated the members of the Lincoln Brigade. In the face of the global refugee crisis and the cruelty of current public policy, No More Deaths offers a powerful model for personal and collective action. Thank you, No More Deaths, for the work you do. And congratulations from all of us for being the recipient of the 2020 ALBA Puffin Award for Human Rights Activism.
Just turn to one side. It takes typically 4 hours. We're following are not official trails. They've just kind of become trails through use, what we call use trails. And you can kind of see them. You can see a faint kind of depression along the ground. We will come across, like articles of clothing and various other signs that humans, travel along them. We keep a log sheet of every time we make a drop, and that kind of records how many bottles are left there. And so we can get an idea of how many were used or destroyed or damaged by the elements and so forth. People walking through the desert, they're not necessarily following the trail, and especially at night, you don't really see it. And so people traveling this kind of general corridor, but they may be 100 feet off that way when they pass through here. So they may never even see the water that we put out. So it's kind of random. It's sort of hit or miss how much it'll get used.
There's rumors that circulate through the migrant travelers that the water is a trap, like a border patrol trap. Messages are to let them know that this is okay to drink. It's not you're not being trapped by border patrol. It's not a trick. They sell them to avoid detection because they don't reflect off of any lights at night. but they get really hot, and then when the migrants like fill it up with like contaminated water, it like creates like this gross like heat fermentation of like bacteria, and so it actually like, leads a lot more to getting dehydration.
Hello, ALBA. My name is Madeline, and I want to thank you all for being here and donating to No More Deaths. Recently, I was prosecuted by the federal government because of my participation in providing humanitarian aid to immigrants and refugees entering through the USA through the Sonoran Desert. When faced with several misdemeanor charges, my co-defendants and I chose to plead not guilty on all charges because we believe our actions of providing food and water to be a moral obligation. In late 2016, I moved from the Northwest to the Sonoran Desert and started witnessing the international human rights violations occurring on the US-Mexico border. While volunteering with No More Deaths, I began witnessing US border policy in action, and during that time, I realized the government was systematically murdering people as they entered the country through the guise of a policy called prevention through deterrence. The idea around this policy is to deter people into impossible and dangerous wilderness and without resources. No More Deaths' goal is to stop the death and suffering of people experiencing these harsh and inhumane conditions. I acted according to my own moral compass and maintained the stance that we committed no crime. The process of being subpoenaed and attending a trial is tiresome, inconvenient, and stressful to say the least. I was living in the Northwest at the time and constantly flew back and forth from Arizona to Washington. The entire process took over 2 years to reach completion, and all the while it felt hard to live a normal life knowing I faced severe legal consequences. Luckily, in the end, my co-defendants and myself were only sentenced to 2.5 years of probation. I would like to note that during the legal process, I felt so supported and loved by No More Deaths volunteers and the greater public following the case. This outpouring of support felt very hopeful to the cause and for the future, and for that I will always be grateful. Of course, we could not have gotten so far without our amazing lawyers who worked tirelessly and recently succeeded in winning the appeals process and reversing all of our charges, ending the probationary period early, resulting in a not guilty verdict. We are relieved to maintain that humanitarian aid is never a crime and will continue working towards humane and just treatment for all people. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting this tonight, ALBA. I hope to be in New York to celebrate with all of you, but I'm not surprised that the resiliency of this organization created a way to still have an event tonight. So thank you for organizing. I really want to say thank you to ALBA for this incredible honor. This award really means a lot, not just to our organization, but to so many sister organizations and individuals not associated with organizations who do the work of providing humanitarian aid every day. Thank you also for this very generous donation. We are a grassroots organization that relies on donations such as this to continue doing our work. So thank you. In the Southwest, along the borderlands, it's easy sometimes to feel isolated. The government policies like prevention through deterrence that force so many people into the desert and cause so much death and suffering are so inhumane. It's often hard to believe, it's hard to witness, and it's hard to bring attention to. These atrocious government systems are killing thousands of migrants, along with the systems of detention and the deportation system as well. The government wants to hide these murders. The government wants to label the migrants who have lost their lives as insignificant and continue acting with no accountability. Because it is easy to feel isolated, I think it makes moments like this even more special when it's very clear that this is not the case. We never expected this recognition from ALBA, but it makes it very clear that communities across the country are well aware of what's happening in the Southwest and are listening and watching and care very much about the thousands of migrants who have died in this desert. You know, because the border is also in New York. The border is in every city and town across the United States. There are inhumane borders across the world, and that means there are people defeating borders across the world and fighting back against borders across the world also. In the last years, the federal government has tried to criminalize humanitarian aid. In 2019, we had 4 separate trials. 9 of our volunteers faced criminal misdemeanor charges for putting food and water in the desert. And 1 volunteer, Scott Warren, faced multiple felony charges for providing food, water, and shelter to 2 migrants. We have now won every single one of those trials. Scott Warren was found not guilty by a jury trial last November, and all of the misdemeanor charges have now been found not guilty by the Ninth Circuit Appellate Court. It is an honor to be speaking with all of you today. Thank you for this award, this recognition. Thank you for this donation, but thank you above all for your solidarity. Thank you for witnessing what is happening in our community and helping us fight back. Thank you for being present and recognizing people fighting borders in so many communities and never ceasing to treat each other with humanity despite what the potential consequences or repercussions might be. Thank you for bringing our communities and our struggles ever closer together and therefore ever more powerful.
Thank you, Gina, and thank you, Madeline, and everybody else at No More Deaths for the important work that you do. And we feel really privileged that we're in a position to be able to support that work with the ALBA Puffin Award for Human Rights Activism. We said earlier that music was an important part of the struggle in Spain, and for the past 80 years or so, that same struggle has continued to inspire artists and songwriters around the world. Some time ago, Bruce Barthol, who will make an appearance on his own later on in the program, wrote a piece inspired by the horrific massacre of thousands of supporters of the Spanish Republic by nationalist forces in the town of Badajoz in Extremadura, Spain, in August 1936. Playing this song by Bruce Barthol for us now from San Francisco, California, is Velina Brown. A singer, director, award-winning actor, teacher, and columnist for the Theater Bay Area magazine, Velina has been performing at ALBA events for more than a decade. We're so happy to have you join us, Velina. Over to you in San Francisco.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're safe and well. We saw the dust clouds grow large in the distance. We shut the strong gates and we took to the walls. But rifles can't hold off a motorized column. And we shut the strong gates, and we took to the
Wow. Thank you, Velina. That was incredible. Thank you for sharing this moment with us. I hope you're doing well at home in San Francisco. So, the commitment of no more deaths, even if it leads to arrest, reminds me of the thousands of volunteers who defied their own governments and came to my country to fight fascism in 1936. Even after all these years, their testimonies continue to move me. 2 months ago, ALBA received a unique gift, a collection of hand and typewritten statements from individual vets in which they explained why they had joined the fight in Spain. The donation came from David Geltman, the grandson of Israel Perlman, a New York City bookseller, who bought the collection in February 1939 at a fundraiser auction for anti-Nazi writers and the Val Rehabilitation Fund. We have invited children and grandchildren of Lincoln vets to read us some excerpts and a letter from one of the American nurses.
My name is Penny Demas. My father was Nick Demas. This is what he wrote on January 20th, 1938. I was born on the island of Cyprus, which is a British colony. My parents were peasants, and their living conditions were terrible. And although the island is very rich, I, as well as many others, had to leave the country and try and make a living in foreign lands. I have lived many years in Egypt, and then I came to the U.S., always trying to make good, but the odds were always against me. Though I was an able electrical mechanic, I could not succeed. I was getting conscious of the labor struggle every day more and more, and when the Spanish militarists and traders tried to take away from the Spanish people their hard-won liberties, I felt it was my duty as a conscious worker of democratic background and leanings to go there and to do as much as I could to stop the barbarians. Thank you, Daddy.
Abe Oshraf, my papa. 2 years ago, many Americans already realized that what was being fought in Spain was not a civil war, but a war of fascist foreign invasion, which menaced the peace of the entire world. A few thousand saw fit to take their place by the side of the heroic Spanish people. I was among them. Today, the majority of the American people understand the necessity for lifting the embargo on democratic Spain. If our only contribution was to bring about this understanding, then we have no regrets.
Hi, Wallach, my father. I volunteered to fight against fascism in Spain for all the peoples of the world, as well as for the United States. Stopping the advance of fascism was the most important task of the times. Lawrence Maynard. Why did we go to Spain? Because we believed in the democratic principles upon which our country was founded. We believed that any principle worth believing in was worth fighting for. And most of us would go back to Spain tomorrow if it were possible. We know what the Spanish people are up against, and we want to help. And on the day of their final victory, we'd like to be there to share their joy.
Minnie Fuhr. We are so needed here. You cannot imagine. Even if I wanted to come home, doubt if I could. And Ida, I don't want to come home. Everything I have learned I can use here. Imagine working and knowing every step one takes is helping these men who are fighting our fight against fascism. It no longer is work. It is a rare opportunity. Discomforts matter not, and when one had comfort for a night or a few hours, one enjoys it more intensely. Just gave out my last lousy Spanish cigarette. These are not ordinary soldiers dying, but going into the struggle against fascism for you and me, for the Spanish people and the whole world. I could weep when any of them go out before my eyes. The struggle is not 4,000 miles away, but affects everyone.
Edward Luschel McDaniel, Adjutant Commander, Veterans of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. I was 19 months in Spain, 12 months on the front. With the Lincoln Brigade, I was in officers' training school, and I was in charge of machine gunners, groups, and instruction at Albacete, Belchite, Stiges, Caspe, Quinto, and La Luz. I went to Spain to fight against the fascist invasion because I have had to suffer for the lack of freedom all my life as an American, principally from my miserable, downtrodden existence. I was born in the South. I went to Spain because these are some of the same sources that have not only deprived me as a Negro of my freedom, but have enslaved the entire working class. I went to Spain because the reign of terror in fascist-ruled countries has only resulted in raising more racial discrimination, more killing, and more wholesale slaughter, using every kind of tactic to divide and split working people. This is a throwback for civilization.
Thank you so much for these readings, Sarah, Nancy, Penny, and Zoe. I think you can all imagine the excitement we felt when we first learned about these documents, when we put our hands on them a couple of months ago, without knowing they even existed. It's precisely these types of texts that we like to work with and introduce into high school classrooms. And I think it's not hard to see why they work so well to connect the past with the present. Here at ALBA, we strongly believe that the archive is not just about preserving history, but about engaging with it and making it come alive. Hence our tagline, teaching history, inspiring activism, and upholding human rights. And hence, of course, also the ALBA Puffin Award to begin with. Now, to understand the importance of human rights activism, we can look to the inspiring work of No More Deaths, No Más Muertes. They are a grassroots organization, and they depend on gifts and volunteer work. But they're inclusive, they're effective, they're creative, and they're amazingly persistent. By supporting their work, we honor the legacy of the Lincoln Brigade. And we believe deeply that they are part of the same activist lineage. In recent years, of course, we've seen a new surge of the radical right around the globe, including in the United States and Europe. But we've also seen young people all over the world, including the US, organize. They're organizing for social, racial, and environmental justice. They're organizing against police oppression, against sexual violence, for gun control, and of course, for universal health care. These young people are looking for models. And this is exactly where ALBA's work comes in. Work that is, of course, sustained entirely by people like you. If it weren't for you, our quarterly magazine, The Volunteer, wouldn't exist, nor would the archive itself, our lecture series, or the monument in San Francisco. These past couple of years, we've been especially proud of the work we do with teachers throughout the country. For over 10 years, our high school institutes or workshops have reached more than 1,000 teachers, and through them, tens of thousands of students, giving them the tools to learn about the men and women who fought fascism in Spain, a chapter that is often not even included in their history textbooks, and to further the legacy of international solidarity and activism. Now, since the COVID crisis has compelled us to postpone the in-person workshop we had planned for the spring, we have reinvented our format. And this July, we're excited to offer our first fully online 4-week workshop through which teachers all over the United States can earn professional development credit. And we've been talking as well to our friends in Spain to see about exporting our workshops there as well. Now, if you share our belief in the continued need to fight against fascism in all its forms and to fight for social justice. And if you believe in the importance of anti-fascist education at all levels, but especially in the middle and high school, please consider supporting us with your donation. We know these times are hard and unpredictable, so of course we appreciate any support that you can give, all the more. To donate, you can go to our website listed in the comment section on Facebook, alba-valb.org, or alba-valb.org. We promise you that your donations will be put to good use and help keep the memory and legacy of the Lincolns alive. Thanks again for your support. All right, it's time for a little bit more music. We are incredibly excited to feature Bruce Barthol, whom we mentioned earlier, and who's connecting with us from the Bay Area. Bruce was the original bass player with Country Joe and the Fish in the 1960s, and he has served for years as musical director of the San Francisco Mime Troupe. Bruce and his band have played at countless of ALBA events through the years, and today he was singing the Song of the United Front, one of the most famous hymns of the German labor movement. It became quite popular among the international brigades in Spain, who sang it in several languages, as Bruce will do. And then after Bruce, we'll be staying in California for another short visit with Sarah Lee Guthrie, who will be playing her grandfather's haunting song, Deportee. And we'll also have one more letter to share from ALBA Bessie, the author and Hollywood blacklister, who was also a Lincoln vet. So let's first go over to Bruce Barthol in California.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to play you Das Einheitsfrontlied, Song of the United Front, by Bertolt Brecht and Hans Eisler. Porque el ser humano lo que quiere es su pan, las habladurías le bastan ya porque estas nada le dan. Pues un, dos, tres, compañero, en tu lugar, porque eres de pueblo, afíliate ya del Frente Popular. And just because he's human, a man would like a little bite to eat. He wants no bosses over him and no slave under his feet. So left to three to the work that we must do. March on in the Workers' United Front, for you are a worker too. Ouais, rien avec nos amis n'est pas pour. Nous allons de la grande union de tous les vrais travailleurs. Marchons nos pas, camarades à votre front. Rangez-toi dans la fronte de tous les ouvriers avec tous les frais étrangers. Der Prolet ein Prolet ist, drum wird ihn kein anderer befreien. Es kann die Befreiung der Arbeiter nur das Werk der Arbeiter sein. Drum links bei drei, von deinem Platzgenosse ist. Reite heim in die Arbeitereinheitsfront, weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist. So left to three to the work that we must do. March on in the Workers' United Front, for you are a worker too. Salud.
ALBA Bessie, January 2nd, 1939. Men went to Spain for a variety of reasons, some very few for adventure, most out of a deep-seated determination to take their place in a struggle whose front lines were not confined to Spain. I am personally convinced that the struggle holds the key to human relationships throughout the world. It was my privilege to serve in the Lincoln Battalion from March 8, 1938, until we were withdrawn at the expressed wishes of the loyalist government of Spain. That affiliation constituted as great an experience of human brotherhood as I ever expect to enjoy.
All right, so I'm going to do another song here that was actually written by my grandfather again. This one is called Deportees. It's also known as the Plane Wreck at Los Gatos. And it was written by Woody, but it was actually just the words were written by Woody. And then a student by the name of Martin Hoffman came along and put the melody to it and made a song of it. And then years later, a man by the name of Tim Hernandez heard the song, found out about the details, and wrote a book. And this kind of just goes to show you how a song can start and go on and live and impact people's lives the way that this has. And well, I'll sing it for you, but the story is quite incredible and one of my favorite songs. So thank you for requesting it. Crops are all in and the peaches are rotting. The oranges are piled in their creosote dumps. They're flying us back to the Mexican border to pay all the money way back again. My father's own father, he waded that river. They took all the money he made in his life. My brothers and sisters come work in the fruit trees. They rode the trucks till they took down and died. Goodbye to my home, goodbye Rosalita. Adios, mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane. All they will call you will be deportee. Some of us are illegal, some are unwanted. Our work contract's out and we've got to move on. We're 600 miles from that Mexican border. They chase us like outlaws, like rustlers, like thieves. We've died in your hills and we've died in your deserts. We've died in your mountains and died on your plains. We've died neath your trees and we've died in your bushes. Both sides of the river, we died just the same. Goodbye to my home, goodbye Rosalita. Adios, mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane. All they will call you will be deportee. Well, the sky plane caught fire over Los Gatos Canyon, like a fireball of lightning that shook all our hills. Well, who are these friends all scattered like dry leaves? The radio says they're just deportees. Is this the best way we can grow our big orchards? Is this the best way we can grow our good fruit? To fall like dry leaves and rot on your topsoil, be called by no name except deportees. Goodbye to my home, goodbye Rosalita. Adios, mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane. All they will call you will be deportees. Goodbye to my home, goodbye Rosalita. Adios. Lots of love to everybody. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah Lee. That was incredible. And it's hard to believe, but we're reaching the end of our program today. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we hope to see you again in person soon. To close us out, we're turning to one of the most loyal friends of the Lincoln Brigade, Pete Seeger, with the performance at the Veterans Annual Reunion in February 1972. We want you to know that ALBA is committed to continuing our work, even during this crisis. Stick around after the credits for a moving 6-minute slideshow of veterans' portraits. Also, visit our website, alba-val.org, and leave your comments right here on Facebook. Enviamos un gran abrazo a todos y salud.
Viva la 15 Brigada, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Viva la 15 Brigada, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Que sea cubierto de gloria, ay Manuel, que sea cubierto de gloria, ay Manuel, luchamos contra los moros, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Luchamos contra los moros, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Veteranos y fascistas, ay Manuel, veteranos y fascistas, ay Manuel, solo es nuestro deseo, rumba la rumba la rumba, acabar con el fascismo, ay Manuel, acabar con el fascismo, ay Manuel, en la frontera y Jarama, rumba la rumba la rumba, en la frontera y Jarama, rumba la rumba la rumba, no tenemos ni aviones, ni tanques ni camiones, ay Manuela. No tenemos ni aviones, ni tanques ni camiones, ay Manuela. I usually stop to translate the song at that point, but I don't need to translate it for you. But it's very important in my mind that my audiences know that the next verse says, now we are leaving Spain, but we'll keep on fighting on other fronts. Ya salimos de España, rumba, 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 la. Ya salimos de España, rumba, 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 la. Por luchar en otros planes, ay Manuel, ay Manuel, la. Por luchar en otros planes, ay Manuel, ay
escribir, ya sabes mi paradero. Si me quieres escribir, ya sabes mi paradero. En el frente de Gandesa, primera línea de fuego. En el frente de Gandesa, primera línea de fuego. Si tú quieres comer bien, barato y de buena forma. Si tú quieres comer bien, barato y de buena forma, en el frente de Gandesa allí tienen una fonda. En el frente de Gandesa allí tienen una fonda. En la entrada de la fonda hay un moro Mohamed. En la entrada de la fonda hay un moro Mohamed que te dice paisa, paisa, ¿qué quieres para comer? Que te dice paisa, paisa, ¿qué quieres para comer? El primer plato que dan son granadas rompedoras. El primer plato que dan son granadas rompedoras. El segundo de metralla para recordar memorias. El segundo de metralla para recordar memorias. Si me quieres escribir, ya sabes mi paradero. Si me quieres escribir, ya sabes mi paradero. En el frente de Gandesa, primera línea de fuego. En el frente de Gandesa, primera línea de fuego.
There's a valley in Spain called Jarama. It's a place that we all know so well. It was there that we fought against the fascists. We saw a peaceful valley turn to hell. From this valley they say we are going, but don't hasten to bid us adieu. Even though we lost the battle at Jarama, we'll set this valley free for we're through. We were men of the Lincoln Battalion. We're proud of the fight that we made. We know that you people of the valley will remember our Lincoln Brigade. From this valley they say we are going, but don't hasten to bid us adieu. Even though we lost that battle at Jarama, we will set this valley free for we're through. You will never find peace with these fascists. You will never find friends such as we. So remember that valley of Jarama and the people that'll set that valley free. From this valley they say that we're going. Don't hasten to bid us adieu. Even though we lost the battle at Jarama, we'll set this valley free for we're through. All this world is like this valley called Jarama. It's so green and so bright and so fair. No fascist can dwell in our valley, nor breathe in our new freedom's air. From this valley they say that we're going. Do not hasten to bid us adieu. Even though we lost the battle at Jarama, we'll set this valley free for we're through.
Viva la quinta brigada, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Viva la quinta brigada, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Que sea cubierta de gloria, ay Manuela, ay Manuela. Que sea cubierta de gloria, ay Manuela, ay Manuela. Luchamos contra los moros, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Luchamos contra los moros, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Mercenarios y fascistas, ay Manuela, ay Manuela. Mercenarios y fascistas, ay Manuela, ay Manuela. Solo es nuestro deseo, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Solo es nuestro deseo, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Acaba con el fascismo, ay Manuela, ay Manuela. Acaba con el fascismo, ay Manuela, ay Manuela. En los frentes de Jarama, rumba la rumba la rumba la. En los frentes de Jarama, rumba la rumba la rumba la. No tenemos ni aviones, ni tanques, ni cañones, ay Manuela. No tenemos ni aviones, ni tanques, ni cañones, ay Manuela. Ya salimos de España, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Ya salimos de España, rumba la rumba la rumba la. Por luchar en otros frentes, ay Manuela, ay Manuela. Por luchar en otros frentes, ay Manuela, ay Manuela.